Welcome, I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well today. In today's case of true crime, I'm looking at the Kouri Richins situation, where she has now been accused of murdering her husband and having written a book about dealing with that grief. Quite ironic, and the phrase murder she wrote comes to mind. So in this episode, I'm going to look at the day of the murder, as well as the Valentine's Day incidents of the same year. All right, so let's have a look. Let me take a moment to focus and tune in. All right, so the first slide I'm going to bring up is the date of birth of both parties, of Kouri as well as Eric. And let's start with Kouri. She was born April 20, 1990, and that gives her a 422 and a 1910-1 outcome, and she is a life path 7. I'm just going to take a moment to have a look at her date of birth, just to see the kind of person she is, knowing what we know now. So the 4 from the April gives her the ability as author, as a writer. And the 4 also speaks about property, land, earth elements. So that's where the property side comes in. And I've red flagged the year that she was born in, 1910-1. Now, just a note to you, don't start looking at your date of birth or comparing. This is within a given context of a marriage between two people, and they have different date of births, of course, and we will include the marriage. So don't start nitpicking at the numbers. We're going to look at it within context of this crime. So the reason why I flagged the 1910-1 predominantly is for the number 1, and that number 1 is where we find the money issue. Okay. Now, the greed or the need for money is situated in the 1. Okay. Now, what's also important is the 19, the origin of that 1. Okay. Now, on a positive aspect, 19 with a 9 is about Buddha, is about the perfectness, the wholesomeness, the higher self. Now, when we're dealing with a negative aspect like a murder, which generally is shown with various numbers like the number 9 or 13-4 or 18-9 even. Okay, so what concerns me about that 1910 is the 9 that's sitting there. And of course, very simplistically, we all have a choice, good or bad. Okay, and of course, Kouri has chosen the latter. Now, what's interesting with her date of birth is that 24/6. Now, once again, on a positive aspect, 24/6 is all about the family. It's all about friends. It's the friend circle. It is committing and committed to children. So that is actually quite a good number sitting in her profile. And of course, she might have started with good intentions and could be very friendly, but on the negative aspect of that 24/6 is the opposite, and that is the destruction of family, the destruction of friends. Okay, and in so far saying, and we can also include the destruction of a marriage. So we have an outcome 7 life path. Okay, now at the time of their marriage she was 23, which gives us a 5, which is also a bit of a negative number. And but I would just say in total, technically she doesn't have bad numbers, but because of her choices, the negative on those numbers is quite profound, as we are seeing now. And I'll point the number 7 out a little bit later. But the number 7, when you're dealing with crime or any criminal activities, if you've got a life path 7, life path 7s will always get caught. Okay? Because 7 is meant to be the justice number. We can go as far as saying purity and all that kind of thing, but 7 is about justice. And of course, the negative aspect of that is injustice. So now if we look at Eric, born May the 13th, 1982. Now with his number profile, he has solid numbers as well. The 13-4 is about earth, metal, wood, also grounded in earth, metal, wood. 5, very grounded number if you look at Taurus, earth sign. And born 1982 gives us that 22. Now that 22 is all about the masses, people. Very people orientated, I would say with Eric, very people orientated. Or engineering would play a part in his life with that 18-9. Mechanics, engineering, with a 9 outcome says he is elevated above the regular mechanic or the regular engineer, in that he can be innovative with that 9. 9 is also about invention. So whatever he would do in his life, from a work point of view, he would always find better solutions or better ways of doing things. That was just in his nature. And with that 11-2 is all about bringing people together. Family, friends, very focused on also financial and business. And I believe he was an entrepreneur business person. And you'd find that in the 11-2. And at the age of the marriage, he was 31, which gives us the 4, very grounded. And with Kouri, with the 5, can be a very negative number, the bullshitter. And the sense that I got when I was pulling out their date of birth and the marriage is that from her side, this was a means to an end. And I would say that money would definitely play a big focus in your life with those 1s. Now, I made a note about the marriage date, June 15, 2013, which gives us a mass of 6s. For me, that is a problem. Now, having looked at the day that he was murdered, as well as the Valentine's Day incident, is that the impression that I'm getting is that their marriage profile, the day and the date that they were married, in many ways was a foreshadowing of what would happen on March the 3rd, 2022, with that 18-9 outcome. That 18-9, as mentioned earlier, is about the Buddha. So this could have been a marriage of bliss. And I mean that sincerely, 18-9. If your marriage is a 9, if you've got a 9, ultimately it is the perfect number in terms of where you need to be, the higher self. The marriage is of a higher nature. But again, if you look at it from a negative aspect, that 18-9 tells me murder. And we will see how relevant their marriage profile is when we look at March the 3rd. So just a final comment on their marriage profile. When you have a mass of 6s, that is concerning. When you have too many of the same numbers, causes issues within the marriage. Okay? And it will be an issue ongoing. Now, ironically, they were married in a 6 year, 2013 adds to a 6. And the year that the incidents occurred was in a 6 year. So we're seeing this play of 6s, which can be and will be detrimental with this marriage, of course. So just keep a note on all those 6s, because you'll see it play out now when I bring in the next slide, okay? So I'm going to look at the day of the murder first, and I've included the marriage and their date of birth profiles here as well. So let's go step by step. So let's look at the day, March the 3rd, 2022. Now, I believe that is the day that he was poisoned, and we see the masses of 6s talks about poison. Now, poison can be poison to the body, okay? Doesn't necessarily mean that she bought poison to kill him, but what she gave him became poison. In other words, the level of drugs found in his system became poisonous to the system, okay? So that is what has happened here. And I'll point out the drug numbers here for you as well. So if we look at March the 3rd, once again, we have masses of 6s, which pings directly on the year and the day that they were married. Okay, all the 6s. And then on March the 3rd, we have the mass of 3s. Now, we've got a mass of 3s and 6s here. Now, in the little post that I did on the community post site, I mentioned all those threes. That is about abuse, control, and 3 talks about the feminine energy, the woman. So we have here Kouri on that day, full female energy, about abuse, control. 6 is the poison. Now, when we have a 666 like that, and it's in their marriage numbers as well, when you have a mass of 6s like that close to each other, that is death. Okay? That is too many of the same numbers. So we have the outcome there, March the 3rd, which is a 12-3. So this tells me that Kouri was taking control of the situation. She was murdering her husband. And of course, there was money involved. But little did she know, because I'm not seeing the evidence on those days of money. There's no 1s there, okay, or 5s even. That she, in her mind, was doing it for the money. But on those days tells me she was not going to get any money out of this situation whatsoever. Okay. Now, because the poisoning happened late at night, March the 4th, in that early hours of the morning was when the paramedics were called out. So March the 4th is going to reveal what actually happened, and it will shadow across to March the 5th as well. So on March the 4th, tells me the 4 is the chemicals. Okay. It also tells me that there was a male. 4 is male. Had an injustice, the number 7, which resulted in a death, 13-4. Now that 7 speaks about the manner in which he died would have been asphyxiation, related to lungs and breathing. But interestingly, the day after also reveals with that 7 who was responsible for that murder. And it pings directly on Kouri as well, right? And I made that note there. 7s always get caught. Okay, fact. 7s always get caught. Now, what we have there, March the 4th, a male was killed by number 7, which resulted in a death due to chemicals, and the 666 pings directly on their marriage as well, and that is poison, disconnection, and destruction coming from Kouri's side. Okay. Now, what's interesting about March the 5th is we have the outcome there, 14-5. So that, if you watched my previous videos, 14-5 is a lie about what happened. And we see the number 5 there, which highlights the drugs. So we see the 5 in the day as well as the outcome 5. Murdered by drugs. And what she said was a lie, 14-5. Okay. So unfortunately, on this day that Eric was poisoned, that was a detrimental day with the outcome of his death, unfortunately. So what I want to show you now is the Valentine's Day situation, right? Very interesting here. Now, if you look at February the 14th, 2022, so that's when he had, I believe it was a sandwich that he ingested and didn't feel well afterwards. So that 14-5, or however he consumed the drugs, so that 14-5, that 5 is the drugs. So it's almost like, and I'll backtrack and give you an explanation what's going on there. When she woke up that morning, she knew, and I'll backtrack to show you, she knew already what she was going to do with that 16-7 pinging on her. And the intention was to kill Eric with the drugs. But of course, in that case, she might have got the dosage incorrect or wrong. And of course, what happens then is the following morning, that 15-6 says a combination of drugs, which was poisonous. On that 17-8 is the physical illness that he was feeling. And again, we see that 14.5 pop up. Now, we saw that 14.5 on the March the 5th. So we are seeing some similarities in the numbers leading up to this. Now, if we go back to the Valentine's Day, I went back on till February the 12th. So let's have a look at February the 12th. So we see the presence of the 12.3, which was present on the day of his poisoning as well. And the 12.3 sits in their marriage. So where we see that 14.5, she would have got the drugs on that day, or let's say at least by the end of February the 12th, she would have had the drugs, with the outcome 11.2, which is an injustice, breaking the law. And we know there's been charges set up for her with regards to purchasing narcotics. Now, when we go to February the 13th, when she woke up that morning, having had the chemicals in her handbag or wherever she stored them, she woke up knowing, or let's put it this way, she woke up that morning with murderous intentions, with that 13.4. And she knew, having those drugs, 15.6 will be poisonous. So the 5 in the 15.6 is the drugs, with the outcome 6 will be poisonous, and 12.3 is taking a life. It will take his life. Now, if you look back on the day of the attempt where she actually did poison him, we have the outcome 12.3. And that 12.3 is sitting in their marriage profile as well. So when we get to February the 14th, the combination that she had created obviously wasn't strong enough. That the following day, the 15.6 and 17.8 speaks about the drugs causing issues with the biological system, 8. So I would say the combination that she created, of course, we know wasn't strong enough. And we'll note that the numbers of that sequence ping on both their profiles as well as the marriage, but not as intensive. Now I'm going back to the day that he was actually murdered. You'll note that all the numbers on their marriage are highlighted, as well as the numbers on her profile, and very little on him because he was the victim. So what we have here is a scrupulous, murderous intention and for money. And the irony, once again, is that the day that she poisoned him and the outcome, there was not going to be any money out of this that she created. So once again, we have a situation where a partner, and we always see the 3s pop up when you have spousal or partner murders. That 3 is about abuse, taking control, abuse of power, control issues. And I believe she was directly involved, and it's almost obvious, but she was definitely directly involved with the murder of Eric. And once again, the people that are going to suffer the most, apart from Eric, are the children. And I believe that Eric's family will be looking after the kids, which is a blessing, and he's very relieved about that. So I must just say, while doing the show, Eric has been around, and he is very upset, obviously, what had happened, but of course, that's the human side of it. And yeah, it's just terrible what has happened in this situation. But again, what's also interesting is the marriage profile is so linked to the day of his death. So not very nice. All right, let me know what your thoughts are. I want to hear and see your comments. I do read all of them. And if you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that notification icon for future uploads. And I'll say stay safe, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one.